wanted to get this content up ASAP because there's just really not a lot of content on YouTube so far about the Dallas Card Show. But if you've heard anything, you've probably heard, I know Neo was saying that he'd heard that Dallas was wild, and it was absolutely wild. As far as the cards go, I think I just figured something out. And it started happening in my journey, my hobby journey, my hobby experience. So it makes sense that if it's happening to me, it's happening to more than just me, and it sort of explains the recent '90s bubble, the recent '90s rare cards, inserts, refractors, numbered cards. If you go back and look at a lot of the bigger '90s inserts, the more popular cards, they have almost doubled since like 2023. A lot of them have gone up. I went back on some of the like Kobe and Jordan inserts, and right now they're at 2021 peak prices. It was like they were hot when the whole hobby was hot, and then the rookies sort of were what everyone was chasing, the ultra modern rookies. But I think so many people have been burned, and so many of the flippers have flipped, and there's just not a very long road for the flippers to keep flipping, because they're just flipping them back and forth to each other. And I think the repackers are helping keep the liquidity going with some of that. But if the repackers start to pull out, and whether it's just a holiday thing or if it's more sort of a movement, it feels like they have. It feels like the repackers are well. Let me just say this: at least the card shows aren't getting wiped out within the first day or two. So it feels like they're either taking a break, they're waiting for the market to kind of settle to see if it falls a little more, or they just have so much inventory that they don't need anything right now. Maybe people have stopped buying repacks at large, but whatever the case is, it feels like people have been burned on the ultra modern rookie chase, and so they're starting to just go back and find cards that they want and that they like. And I think a lot of guys are starting with the early parallels and refractors. In the 80s, you had 4 or 5 card companies. They put 1 or 2 sets out a year, and there wasn't a lot of variety, in terms of parallels and inserts and different short prints stuff. Now, you have just almost too much of that stuff. But it all started kind of in the 90s. That's when the glory days of the parallels and the numbered cards and the short prints and the refractors and the golds, and that's kind of when it all started. And so I think people are hearkening back to that time, and that's the bubble. And I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's a bubble that's going to pop. And I think, honestly, the like, not the 9s and 10s, but like, maybe the 9s. I think that people are willing with that stuff to stay away from the 10s, because the 10s are so low pop. They're so pricey that the 7s, 8s, and 9s even, people are more than happy to get in at that grade level because of the price point. And I really do see that market just continuing to get hotter and hotter. And that, in my opinion, is a great sign, because that's the collector. That's the collector choosing where he wants to spend his money, how he wants to spend his money. The flippers are kind of slowing down a little bit on the ultra modern rookies. People have gotten burned and got out, or whatever the case may be, because none of these rookies hold their value. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so maybe the hobby is just starting to move in a different direction, and they're landing on the 90s stuff, and that's where everybody's at, and that's where all the money is at, and that's why a lot of this stuff has gone up by 60-70% in the last year and a half, 2 years. Anyway, it was a great weekend. Within probably 20 minutes, my son had called me. He went with 3 tag team Pokemon, the Latios, the Magikarp, and what was the other one? gosh, it starts with a G. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, they were his prized cards, and he took them, and he took an Ohtani Inception auto from 2022, I believe. And within 30 minutes, he called me and said he had sold all of his cards and he had $5,000 in cash in his pocket. So he started the show on a high note. He was so excited. And he bought a little here and there, just, he probably spent another $600, $700, $800, but he walked out of the show with 4K plus. He wants to buy a new guitar, so he was happy. And I was like, man, this is, if this is a sign of things to come, man, this is going to be absolutely wild. So Josh, I had to pick up from the airport around noon is when we kind of, well, let's see, he rolled in around noon. His flight got in at noon. By the time we got to the show, it was probably about 1:20, 1:30. And the line for Bo Jackson was stretched all the way down the main hallway. Like I said, I ran into Jeff Wilson. And as I had mentioned, I went on Friday right after school for about an hour, and I picked up a couple things out of the dollar box. So I picked up this Topps Chrome Refractor Yu Darvish as a Ranger, and I picked up this Jock Peterson Topps Chrome Refractor Rookie. I made it a point to really dig through the dollar boxes because I've been listening to a guy named Patrick from Radicards. He has a channel called Radicards, Radicards. And he has so much card knowledge that he just peruses the dollar boxes and pulls out some of the coolest cards, and then, does show recaps and really educates on all kinds of different sets and years and the oddities of the cards and why they're significant. And his budget every show is, probably $100 or less. So I really wanted to explore the dollar box as much as I could. And I'll tell you something, I don't have the patience. I just don't. And that probably stems from me not having the card knowledge. If I, like Dr. Beckett, I've been listening, by the way, I can't shout out Dr. Beckett's podcast enough. I'd never listened to it before, and then I started listening to it about 2 weeks ago, and man, I've been binge listening. He's super knowledgeable. He's a good storyteller, so it's just a great listen. If you're not listening to that, I can't recommend it enough, as well as Radicards. That's a great channel too. But anyway, I picked those two up on Friday, and then when we got back to the show on Saturday, I kind of guided Josh over to another box, and it was like $2 or $3, per card, up to like 10, that type of value box. It wasn't a strict dollar box, but the guy was just like, hey man, pick out whatever you want, and then look at it and I'll work with you on the price. And so we did that, and I'll show you what I got. So this brick of cards right here, I got out of the first dollar box that we went to. I can't remember his name. I think his Instagram is H-Town Card Show. H-Town Card Show. He's a great guy out of San Antonio. And we spent about 30 minutes at his table, went through his value boxes, and came away with these cards. I paid $25, okay, for all this. So just keep that in mind. So got a Kwame Brown clear, pristine, which I didn't know Pristine made clears, but Kwame and his take on on anything and everything these days with his YouTube channel, and he used to have I think he had a podcast at one point, maybe he still does, but I love him so much for his stance on issues these days, and willing to take a stance that might not be so popular. But so I picked up his on card clear auto. I picked up this absolute Deion Sanders playoff card. Don't know much about it. Just has Deion on the cover on the front. Then I picked up this Skybox Metal Deion Sanders. Again, don't know. I think this is probably just a base. I'm familiar with the set, just don't know how the set was broken down. This one is a Fleer Metal 95 Emmitt Smith. Beautiful card. So these value boxes are really cool. Like, I went through every single card because it was holding my interest. But some of the value boxes just have the same tired players over. And I can't tell you how many Clint Frazier, Alec Boehm, just retread cards, no-namers that I had sifted through on Friday when I was over at another table that had some dollar boxes. But H-Town Card Show's boxes were just so juicy. Here's the Topps Finest. You know I love Finest. You know I love Finest with the refractor coating, or with the coating still on it. This is not a refractor, but it's a Deion Sanders. I think this is out of, is this out of 99? 99 Finest. Beautiful card. Here's a Topps Power Brokers die cut insert Griffey. This is not the only Griffey you'll see today. A Leaf Metal, or is this a Metal Universe? Sorry, Metal Universe. Randy Johnson, Hardball Galaxy. Super cool card, not very expensive. Like I said, remember, I got all this for $25. A Bobby Carpenter. This is probably a box topper. It looks like out of Bowman Chrome, but the Bowman Chrome Bobby Carpenter rookie. And then this was an interesting one. The Delonte West, also a box topper, out of Bowman Signatures Basketball, with the Celtics green patch there. Auto. Hard times have befallen old Delonte West, but pretty interesting player for that story alone, so I picked this up. And then lastly was a cool game used piece. This is out of Skybox Limited Edition. Priest Holmes. You know, I think Priest Holmes was a really popular player back in the day, from the University of Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he was. This says Fleer 2003 limited Skybox, but chunky patch, game used, out of 10, gold. So yeah, I got all that stuff. All of this for $25. I mean, you can't beat that. So that was my attempt, and these were $1 each. That was my dollar box attempt, and I just couldn't stay in there, man. Beckett talks about how he goes and he can spend hours at a dollar box and pull 600-700 cards out, and I just don't have the patience for that. But it was fun. It was fun to find these and just have a nice little appetizer for the main course. And now let's get to the main course. Okay, so after I picked up the dollar cards, let's see, what was the first thing I did? Oh, I found this amazing 90s Kobe and Jordan honeypot. It was in the back left corner of the room. Matt and his partner, I couldn't remember his partner's name, but they're local guys from McKinney. And they just had some amazing inserts and in affordable grades of all kinds of guys, but mostly it was Kobe and Jordan. And so I just hung out there for really, I did most of my business with these two guys. So I'm super thankful to have run into them and found that table. But yeah, I spent most of my money and made most of my deals with those guys. So let's start with the first one. The first one I got was this, was this Planet Metal Kobe. Look at that. 1997 Metal Universe. Planet Metal in an 8. Not super expensive, but just enough to keep you interested. And it's just a gorgeous card. I mean, it's just an amazing card. This is my first, so I've broken the seal on the Kobe and Jordan refractors from the 90s. I've largely stayed away from them just because I don't know much about them. But they're too nice, and they're affordable right now. They're gorgeous. And it seems like that's where everybody is at the moment. So I did pick up this. I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm maybe a little bit behind on the bandwagon, but I'm on the bandwagon, and it is what it is. Look at this one. Wow. Look how gorgeous this is. The 97 Ultra Gold Medallion. This was officially my first Jordan card. Now, I had some in the past and I've sold them. But look at this thing right here. Again, PSA 8. For these 90s short prints or parallels or whatever, refractors, I love the PSA 8 because it's still really sharp, but it's also really affordable. I mean, this is everything I could want in a card, you know. Just absolutely gorgeous. The lettering, the scripting, it all shines and got tons of stats on the back. I love to see that. Got a cool picture of him right there getting ready to play some defense. Yeah, the gold medallions are one of my favorites. You know, as I'm learning this 90s parallel thing, the gold medallions really stood out to me, and the metal stuff. So I was thrilled to find those. He had a Jordan Bombardiers, but I walked away, and when I came back, it was gone. That was going to be my next victim, but I wasn't able to get that. But I did. Okay, so I'll just kind of skip around. Yeah, so the next pickup was this one. Oh man, this is gorgeous. 95 Skybox Premium Michael Jordan Meltdown. So I did a trade on Saturday night with this same group of guys, this same table. And I'll tell you about the trade here in a minute. But I ended up working in $100 credit as part of the trade, because I knew I could just go back to their table on Sunday and pick something out. And so the 8s on this do about $500 to $600. And so I got this for $500 plus my credit. So yeah, it's an amazing card, gorgeous in hand. And yeah, 2 Jordans, 1 Kobe. And if it would have ended here, then I could have been okay, but it only got better from there. Before I get into the last 2 cards, the bigger cards I picked up, let me show you a couple of the other 90s cards that I've been getting, you know, in the past couple weeks, months. This is the Legacy Collection Row Zero. This is from 98 Flair Showcase. This is the Pudge Rodriguez. Now, these are just gorgeous, and they're out of 100. They're so tough to pull, but just look at that. I mean, it's in a near mint 8, just where I like to be, you know. But if you can see him, he's about ready to catch a pop up there. He just hit a double off the right field wall there. These things are some of my absolute favorites. These and the gold medallions, I think, are my 2 favorites so far as I'm going and as I'm learning. So I'm happy to get that, and I picked that up, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago. Here's the same card. This one is, this one's a 9, and this one's an A-Rod. If you can see there, he's going back on a fly ball. Probably admiring a home run here. But it's also the Legacy Collection Row Zero out of 100. So I have those 2 in my collection, and I'm about to show you a third one here in just a second. So next up, I talked about sort of trying to pick out some players from the 90s that I can collect. And of course, Pudge makes a ton of sense because he was a Ranger, and A-Rod was a Ranger too, but I think between those 2 guys, maybe some Juan Gonzalez here and there, but A-Rod's pretty affordable for just who he was in the hobby, and you know, and in the baseball space. The numbers he has, just 4 or 5 home runs short of 700. Yeah, I know his market is really stifled because of the PED use, but that's okay. I mean, he's apologized, he's admitted it. Look at how gorgeous the back of that card is. 97 of 100. And really, I'm just going to have to move on. I mean, that whole era was marred by performance enhancing drugs. And so you can try to stay away, but the chances are the player you think you're collecting who didn't use them probably did. And then just as a final recap of what I've done lately, I did pick up this blue Salvador Perez. Came in first Bowman. I think there's 110 on this, and this is out of 150. Yeah. So this is super low pop, but I did get that. All right, now let's get into the last two cards that I picked up of the show. And that'll put a bow on it. So it was 2 trades. I made 2 rather large trades. So before we get into the last 2 deals I made, the big trades I made, I forgot to show you these last 2 cards I picked up. So I picked up this Kerry Wood 99 Skybox Molten Metal Fusion Sterling Pop 3. Only 3 ever graded, at least according to Alt. I have not checked the PSA registry, but only 3 ever graded, all 3 8s. Got this for $30. They do about 20 raw, so I just paid an extra 10 to take it home with me and have it be in a PSA slab. But 337 out of 500. I knew if I let this leave, if I left without it, then I would have regretted it. But it's a gorgeous card, and it's one of those cards. Talk about the cool to cost ratio that Crosstown Cardboard likes to mention. They might have actually coined that phrase, but yeah, for how cool this is and how much it cost, it just was a no-brainer. So this one, Randy Johnson 97 Ultra Platinum Medallion. Very cool to cost ratio effective as well. I think both of these cost me $100. So this was 70, this was 30. What's interesting is this is the 97 Platinum Medallion, and it's unnumbered. But the 98 Platinum Medallion, which looks like this, is numbered out of 100. So I think that the 98s do a little better than the 97s. But still, with the really nice script, you know, the really shiny pop that the script brings, that the name brings. The Fleer Ultra here is also blinged out. Love it. Kind of do a little PC of Randy Johnson too, because he's in a lot of these 90s parallels. But yeah, for $100, couldn't beat those two. Now let's get on to the big deals that I did. The first deal, well, let me save that. So the first deal happened on Saturday night, and it was with Matt and his partner, those guys that had the Jordan and Kobe parallel honey pot, right? I mean, I'm telling you, I did 95% of my business with those guys, so I can't thank them enough. But I'll show you the other card first. The one that, now this deal I did Sunday with an old trade partner, Zach. Zach is at most of the Dallas shows. If you know him, you know him. But he's always got really interesting stuff, and he's always willing to entertain a trade. And so we were able to get something done. And I'll just show you what I got so I can tell you the backstory. So I got this 99 Finest Gold Ken Griffey as a PSA 9. There are 7 10s. I think there might be 11 or 12 9s. But yeah, it's just gorgeous. And this card is out, just even out of the plastic. Look at that, man, just unbelievable. With the deckled edges. So in 99, the golds were all deckled, which makes this a really coveted year for Finest Golds. I saw this in his case. This is 28 out of 100. So I saw this in his case, and I was immediately like, man, I like that, because I've been wanting to get a 99 Gold Finest, because as I've been watching this content talking about some of these 90s parallels and just what cards are important and what cards are sought after, and they've mentioned the 99 deckled golds a few times out of Finest. So I never thought I'd get a Griffey because they're pricey. Matter of fact, let me tell you what I knew going into this trade and then how I justified it. So a 10 had done $4,200 twice, the last two 10s, probably both within 2024. But the last 9 that sold was in May of 23, I believe, and it had done like 2,800. But a more recent sale was a PSA 8 that did like 1,050 recently, like within the last month or two. So if you've got a recent PSA 8 that's done 1,050 and a recent PSA 10 that's done 4,200, where would you put a 9? So on some of the ultra modern stuff, you've got a PSA 9 to 10 multiplier, and it varies depending on who you talk to. Used to be the tried and true multiplier was a PSA 10 was 3 times what a PSA 9 was. And it was like that for a long time. I mean, that was just a given multiplier. People kind of all respected that and used it. But I think that's come down to 2.5, maybe even 2 to 1 in some instances. But the lower pop a card is and the fewer 10s there are, it comes down even below 2. So it can come down even to like a 1.5 between a 9 and a 10. Not all cards, but and I think especially the really, really rare stuff, the 10s just are out of reach. Like on this card, a 10 does like 20K and a 9 does 2K. So that multiplier doesn't work for something like this. But, I was kind of wondering where I would want to be on this before I asked him what his price on it was, because he didn't have it priced. And I thought 3K was probably a fair price. There's 110 on eBay, and I think they want 10K for it. But there's no 9s, there's no 8s, there's no raws, and this is the guy from the 90s, and this is a very coveted parallel from 99 Finest, the first gold deckled edge out of Finest. I think they did it again in 2000, and then that's it for the deckled edges. But I asked him, and he said 2,600, and so I thought about maybe seeing if he could go a little further, but I wanted to see and inquire about a trade first. And he was willing to take a look. And so this is what he pulled out. So I basically just gave him my Grant Williams. Of course, when I bought my Grant Williams, he was a member of the Dallas Mavericks, and then they ran him out of town before he even had a chance to do much here. They ran him out of town, traded him to the Charlotte Hornets for P.J. Washington, and so I ran my National Treasures out of town too. This one and this 2019 Chronicles Gala short print rookie out of 8, both of which I was really happy to get at the time when he was a Maverick. I was just as happy to get rid of to Zach. So I got $150 for both of those. Probably a little less than half of what I paid. I was just happy to get them gone, and he was willing to take them back. So I moved that pair. And then I also moved this 2020 Panini Honors Kelsey red color match on-card auto with a mint 9 grade on the card and an auto authentication, which looks like the auto would have gotten a 10. It's pretty clean, but ever since Kelsey's come out with his political bullcrap, he's on my chopping block. I hate that because I love the Chiefs and I got some really nice Kelseys, but it is what it is. So yeah, I was willing to let this go. Luckily, it had a recent comp for like $650, so he gave me full comp toward the trade. So between the two Grant Williams and this, I was up to $800, trying to get to 26. And then he also took this LaMelo Ball. Now, I just bought this in the offseason for $300, but this had only gone up like $75. Like I said, these silvers just they're just slow to move. They transact so much that it takes a lot to see a sizable appreciation. So I was just happy to get more than I paid for it. So I moved off of this. So now we're at $1,175. And I moved this. Now, I've had interest on this. I had it on eBay for $3K or best. I think at one point I had $1,000 offer, but I turned it down. I think I was holding out for like 12 or 13. And that offer just never came. That deal just never came. And so he said he could give me $850 and trade for it. And I thought, well, I was offered, my highest offer on eBay was $1,000, which is essentially $850. So I agreed to it. I just wanted it gone. It was another card. I liked the card. It's a cool card. It's a dual diamond. It's gold. Harden and Paul. I like the Rockets. I like these two. But I just wanted to, I didn't want to spend any money if I had to. Now, I ended up having to come out a little bit with some cash. But all told, this got me to about 2K, more or less, those cards. So I was at 2K. We agreed on $625 cash to close the deal. So I gave him his full ask, but he took about 80% back in trade, and he gave me full comps on everything in trade and took my 2 Grant Williams. So I couldn't have been more happy to trade all that stuff and a little bit of cash for another 90s milestone that I've kind of had in the back of my mind. Not necessarily a Griffey, but boy, am I happy to have one. Up until now, I hadn't had any Griffies in my collection, any Jordans or Kobe's, and now I have 90s parallels of all 3. So, like I said, if that would have been my show, I'd have been more than happy. I'd have walked out of there with the big old smile on my face. Let me just show you before I get into the main course one more time what I've come away with. Let's see, that's from the show. So it was these, and it was these plus the $25 brick that I got when I first went in. But this is the main haul so far. Okay, so I don't know how long you guys been watching or how long you've been following me on Instagram, but I started a Randy Moss PC probably a year ago, maybe a little less. Don't know why I waited so long to start it. I've always loved Randy Moss. So it wasn't like I was new to wanting to collect him. It was just sometimes PCs start, you don't know why, and then you're like, man, why haven't I been collecting this player the whole time? So ever since I have been learning about these 90s parallels, I have long been a fan of these. The Flair Showcase, particularly the 98 Flair Showcase, Row Zero Legacy Collection. It's the cream of the crop out of 100 for these Flair Showcase cards. And when I had first started building my Randy PC, I saw one of these. It was going on auction. 98's his rookie year. It was a Flair Showcase Legacy Collection Row Zero PSA 10, and it ended up going for like $6K. And I had no idea what that card was, so I just kind of watched the auction. But the more I've learned about this set and that specific parallel, the more I've fallen in love with it. I never thought I'd find one for Randy. There's another, the Row Zero, but not the Legacy Collection. Looks a lot like this, but it's out of $250. And there's a couple of those for Moss on eBay. But like I said, there was only one Legacy Row Zero, and it went a few months ago, PSA 10, for like $6K. I think it would do more now. I found one at trade night of all places. Look. And it was those two guys that I'd been hanging out with all show. The guys with the Jordan and the Kobe's. They had one of these, and I don't know where it was. I don't know why I didn't see it during the show, but it wasn't in the main basketball case I was looking at, clearly. I guess they'd had a football case too that I just didn't see, because their table kind of had a few showcases and it turned a corner. So there was two down one row and then there was two down another row. But They took this to trade night. When I saw it and I confirmed that it was the Legacy Collection Row Zero, had a $4,500 price tag on it. And I thought, oh my God, I'm in no position to spend that kind of cash. But I just knew I could not let this get out from under me because I'd never see it again. And this is, when I tell you I really, 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 really have wanted this card, I really, really have wanted this card. So I talked to Matt and I was like, dude, look through my cards. And I had both, with all the cards that I brought, I had them pieced out. Like the front of my backpack had my meh stuff. The back of my backpack had my juicy stuff. And so I showed him, I just went straight for the juicy stuff. I showed it to him and he picked this out right here. 2018-19 Panini Contenders playoff ticket, Luka Doncic on-card rookie auto out of 65. Only 3 BGS 95s, this being one of them, and none higher. It was tough to part with this. This was my last Contenders. Of course, I had the cracked ice that I sold a few months ago before the season started. Maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks ago. Sold the cracked ice, moved this. And I justified it instantly to myself. I was like, yep, I'll move it. I don't care because I'll never see this card again. But if I ever wanted to go back out, and maybe not, I maybe couldn't get a 9-5 playoff ticket because there's only 3 of them. But I could get a 9-5 rookie ticket or a 9-5 finals ticket, or there's just, with the Contenders basketball and football too, there's so many different little, subsets that are essentially, it's the same card with just a different number that I just was like, yeah, take it. And so we landed on this, plus he gave me $1,000 cash and $100 credit that I had mentioned before I applied to this card. So he was willing to go down to 4,100 on this, and I think I wanted to be at like 5 on the Luka, because I bought it in 2022 for 5,500, and the market was in a way different place then. It was still on its way down, but I think that I got great value for that card. He's a local guy. He's from McKinney, so it makes sense that he would reach a little bit on a Luka, and it makes sense that I would make one available for a Moss, because he saw that card and was immediately in love, and I could tell we were going to get the deal done. It was just, I started by asking for 1,500, and we settled on $1,000 and $100 in credit, but I got to take away a card that I've been after and never thought I'd get. And so when I say that this Dallas card show may have been the best yet, that's why. I got to see old friends. I got to dabble in the 90s stuff that I've been learning about and watching and wanting to get a piece of at a fair price, because they were mostly PSA 8s. And then I got to take home one of my favorite cards in my entire collection, probably. As far as pop counts go, this is numbered out of 100, as you could see there. And I think there are only 3 10s, maybe 4 10s and 3 9.5s. I mean, the gem mint count, if you're counting PSA 10s and then BGS 9.5s as gem mints, which they are, I think there's 7 or less in the world on this card. So, yeah, man, couldn't be more happy. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Josh, for coming out. It was great seeing you. Thank you, Steve and Brendan, for always being my show dogs. Thank you, Keaton, for going and having a great time. And just thank you, Kyle, and everybody for putting on a great show. And thank you for watching. I know it's a long one, but I appreciate it. With all of that, see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.